Disney dropped nearly $250 million trying to rebrand Snow White. And in return, Family Guy turned the entire project into a joke.
Oh, you said we were going to a place Walt Disney built.
No, Peter, I said supported.
Not just the movie, the company, the casting, the entire era of Disney's woke reboots, and the wildest part, they didn't even have to mention Rachel Zegler by name. The message was loud, brutal, and clear. This wasn't just a cheap gag, it was a full-on attack. And it hit hard because audiences are already exhausted by forced reinventions, exhausted by moral lectures disguised as movies. And right now, Rachel Zegler is becoming the face of all of it. In one scene, Peter Griffin walks through Disneyland looking confused, but the real punchline is behind him. A roller coaster dives in the background with the label Disney stock slapped on it. That's not subtle. That's Family Guy saying Disney's empire is crashing and their obsession with woke branding is to blame. Then it gets worse. Peter watches TV and sees a character. "Wow, that girl is hot," he says.
Oh, that girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy's handsome.
That's a girl.
That cat is cute.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
The line, "What is everything?" has become its own kind of meme. It speaks to how a lot of viewers feel. Everything is being changed, renamed, redefined, and the audience is expected to keep up without question. Family Guy took that feeling and turned it into a punchline with precision. They didn't hold back because they didn't have to. That's the luxury of a show that's always been offensive. But for Disney, this was more than a roast. It was a wake-up call. And just when you think that's the end of it, here comes the next twist. Family Guy wasn't the first animated show to go after Disney. In fact, South Park beat them to it, and they didn't just clown on Snow White. They tore down the entire machine behind it. Kathleen Kennedy, Disney's boardroom decisions, the recycled casting formulas, the put a chick in it and make her gay playbook, all of it. And Rachel Zegler, she was already in the crosshairs, because if Family Guy fired shots, South Park dropped a nuke. And we're about to get into that next. South Park didn't just roast Disney, they reverse engineered the formula and mocked it line by line, frame by frame. In the Joining the Panderverse special, they introduced a version of Kathleen Kennedy, yes, the actual Disney exec behind most of the company's recent reboots, and gave her a mystical object called the Panderstone. Her job? To insert diverse women into every franchise, whether it made sense or not. The episode plays like a fever dream. Cartman is tormented by a multiverse where every classic character has been replaced with a self-righteous, miserable version of a corporate-approved identity. And while the whole thing is satire, the message hit way too close to home for Disney to laugh it off.
Tell me exactly what it is you're afraid of.
I keep having the same dream. Everywhere I look, people are being replaced.
Okay, and who do you think is going to have you replaced?
Them. The puppet masters. The last time I had the dream, I was walking down the school hallway. And I see Butters. And he's like, "Hey, Eric, you want to see what my mom packed me for lunch?" And that's when I start to notice that something's wrong. Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced.
And then comes the line that went viral. South Park's version of Kathleen Kennedy steps forward, throws her hands in the air, and declares, "Put a chick in it and make her gay." That single sentence practically became a slogan for how people feel about Disney's recent output. Forced, formulaic, and hollow.
Is there a problem, people?
We were just discussing ideas of what to do with the new Prince Eric movie.
Put a chick in it, make her gay.
But the roast didn't stop at animation. George Lucas himself, yes, the man who created Star Wars, was caught in a viral clip directly criticizing Kathleen Kennedy to her face. In the middle of a panel, George clowned the creative direction of Disney post-acquisition. The crowd laughed, but it was one of those laughs that feels a little too real.
Some of us think we're really great people, but in the real world we're not. We're terrible people. You run your life in a very selfish way, and you think you're doing good when you're actually not. And at the same time, it's how do democracies turn back into dictatorships? It's happened through history forever and ever.
That's how far this has spiraled. The studio responsible for some of the most iconic stories in cinematic history is now being dragged by animation studios, conservative commentators, YouTube essayists, and even its own original creators. And in the middle of that chaos, Rachel Zegler. Because while Snow White still hasn't recovered from the backlash, Disney's already eyeing its next billion-dollar swing, a live-action remake of Tangled. And reportedly, Rachel Zegler is attached to the project, which, let's just say, is not going over well online. Tangled is set to become the most expensive Disney remake ever. We're talking over $500 million all in with marketing. But after losing nearly $200 million on Snow White, there's panic setting in behind the scenes. Even Disney fans are asking, why would they risk this much again? Especially with someone the internet already has pitchforks out for.
Rachel Zegler is not having her year where her Snow White movie is going to lose $200 million for Disney, but doing so, she also screwed over Tangled in the process. When Rachel Zegler was cast as Snow White, she joined one of Disney's biggest franchises, which was Disney Princess, where they've done $45 billion in merchandise sales just in the last 25 years. With the goal of trying to keep that brand fresh, they've tried to do live-action reboots of the Princess movies, and they have had success so far, with Cinderella making over $500 million on a budget of $90 million, and then Beauty and the Beast making $1.3 billion. But the last two attempts for Disney just haven't worked, where Halle Bailey's Little Mermaid lost $25 million for Disney, and Rachel Zegler's Snow White is way worse and it could lose up to $200 million. Now, because of those two failures, Disney's pausing their other attempts at making live-action reboots, including the live-action Tangled movie. Which Tangled was actually the most expensive animated movie of all time, costing $260 million, and it only made $592 million, which actually means it lost money factoring marketing and ticket splits. Still, Disney saw potential in Tangled having more success as a live-action movie, but now due to the failure of the Rachel Zegler films, they're no longer going to be pursuing that or other projects. So hey, she failed so bad, she did something good getting rid of the reboots, and with that,
the blowback is so strong that the Tangled backlash is happening before filming even starts. And it's not because Rachel Zegler is untalented, it's because audiences feel like they're being sold a brand, not a story. And when you throw $500 million behind that brand, the expectation isn't just for a good movie, it's for something bulletproof, something people want to root for. Right now, that's not where this energy is heading. And speaking of bad energy, that takes us straight to the moment when Rachel walked into an empty theater, posted a TikTok, and accidentally reminded everyone just how badly Snow White actually bombed. Rachel Zegler walking into an empty movie theater wouldn't normally be news, but this wasn't just any theater. This was her own movie, her own Snow White promotional moment, and the seats nearly all empty. She posted a quick Instagram story, bouquet of flowers in hand, walking into the cinema like it was a red carpet premiere. But behind her, a couple scattered viewers, no buzz, no crowd, no excitement. It looked more like an awkward Tuesday matinee than a Disney blockbuster. What was supposed to be a cute viral flex became a meme within hours. People joked that she brought flowers to a funeral, some called it the loneliest premiere in Disney history, and while it's easy to dunk on the moment, it really symbolized something deeper. The disconnect between the movie and the audience, between Rachel and the fans. And a big reason for that disconnect, her casting was controversial from the start. Snow White has always been described in the original tale as having skin as white as snow. So when Disney cast a Latina actress for the role, the internet instantly exploded. Critics argue that if you're going to remake a classic, at least follow the core descriptions. Rachel responded with a TikTok pushing back on the hate and doubling down on the importance of modern representation.
Honestly, I'm embarrassed of this because I chose a filter that made me look pink as hell. But you thought you did something. You thought you did something by pointing out that I, like every other person on planet Earth, use filters on my photos. But you know what you really got? Embarrassed. Let me tell you why this is embarrassing. It's because in this photo, I'm still an olive-toned queen. You don't have to give me any more racial identity confusion than I already have. Let me tell you something. Soy una latina orgullosa y tengo muchos privilegios porque tengo piel clara. But I will never try to bait people by pretending that I look different than I do. Shouldn't even have to explain myself, but go pick on someone else who's actually doing harm by race fishing.
The problem wasn't just the casting, it was how it was handled. Rachel didn't just defend herself, she started attacking the original film, calling it weird, outdated, and hinting that the prince was essentially a red flag. That's where a lot of fans drew the line. If you're taking on an iconic role, at least respect the source, at least act like you love what came before you. But the backlash didn't stop there. It went political. Rachel Zegler was one of several Hollywood names to publicly support Palestine during the ongoing Israel-Gaza conflict. She even signed a letter demanding a ceasefire. That alone wouldn't have sparked chaos, but her co-star Gal Gadot, she's famously pro-Israel. Suddenly, a fictional fairy tale movie became a political war zone. The tension hit critical mass when Lebanon officially banned the film, not because of Rachel, but because of Gal Gadot. According to distributors, Gadot has long been on a boycott list in Lebanon, meaning any movie she stars in gets blocked from release. And just when it felt like the backlash couldn't get any more stacked, an old clip of Rachel resurfaced. In it, she says, "Fuck Donald Trump" on social media. The clip went viral again. She apologized, but the internet never forgets.
Thursday night, the 23-year-old actress posted a new message. "Hi everyone, I would like to sincerely apologize for the election post I shared on my Instagram last week. I let my emotions get the best of me. Hatred and anger have caused us to move further and further away from peace and understanding, and I am sorry I contributed to the negative discourse."
At this point, Rachel Zegler was trending more for drama than for acting. It didn't matter how good the visuals looked or how many times Disney tried to reframe the narrative. The damage was done. And the final blow, the box office numbers. Snow White had a budget between $270 million. It barely scraped $184 million globally. Even Disney insiders admitted it underperformed. But behind closed doors, producer Mark Platt's son, Jonah Platt, didn't hold back. He said what most executives were thinking. Rachel's public comments made things worse. Her interviews, her social media, her entire public persona, that's what tanked the vibe. That's what helped kill the movie. And now, the question isn't whether Snow White failed. That's already done.
Brian. Ida. 2 more, please. So I finally tell them, hey, I came here to be at the seminar, not run it.
The question is what Disney's going to do next, because animated shows are roasting them, fans are walking away, and their most expensive remake yet still hasn't even started production. At this point, even Disney's defenders are starting to look the other way. But the roasts, they're still coming. And one of the darkest ones might have flown under the radar straight out of Family Guy again. In the infamous Quagmire's Dad episode, the show introduced a trans character named Ida. While the intent might have been progressive, the execution wasn't. The most notorious moment? Brian the dog, vomiting repeatedly after learning he'd slept with Ida. The scene sparked outrage across the internet, and yet Family Guy doubled down. They've never claimed to be fair, but they have always been fearless, and if they're already going that hard on Disney's casting, identity politics, and box office failures, there's no reason to think they're done. Anyway, which brings us to the one cartoon empire that hasn't spoken yet, but might be next: The Simpsons. For over 30 years, The Simpsons have poked fun at politics, media, and pop culture. And lately, they've been edging closer to the Disney flame. Remember, Disney owns them now, but that didn't stop The Simpsons from making sly jabs at their own parent company. They've already roasted Marvel fatigue, Star Wars overload, and endless remakes. It's only a matter of time before Snow White lands in their sights, and here's why that could be a problem. The Simpsons still holds cultural credibility. If they drop an episode mocking the Tangled remake, Rachel Zegler, or Disney's obsession with rewriting its past is going to land. Not because it's edgy, but because it's true. The moment The Simpsons joins the pile on, it'll signal something much worse: that Disney has lost the room entirely. When even their own properties are turning against them, it's no longer about haters, it's about legitimacy. This was never about Rachel Zegler alone, or one bad movie, or even the critics online. This is about trust. Disney once stood for timeless storytelling. Characters people could believe in, movies people could escape into. Now, they're selling reboots wrapped in lectures, and even their most diehard fans are starting to tap out. The question isn't whether another roast is coming, it's who delivers the next one. Family Guy did it. South Park obliterated it. The Simpsons are circling. And if things don't turn around soon, the next roast won't be funny. It'll be the final word.